The Civil War battle for Gibson County seat, Trenton, Tennessee, had taken place on December 20th, 1862. The driving tour is a project of the Hill-Freeman Camp, number 1472, of the Sons of the Confederate Veterans, with assistance from the Tennessee Department of Tourist Development and the Tennessee Civil War National Heritage Area. There are 17 stops along this tour, 18 if you count the beginning spot at the Trenton Road Sign. While this is a driving tour, there is a huge temptation to walk the distances. We do recommend that you do take your car as there is quite a distance between some of the stops. All aboard the Kentucky-Tennessee Living Time Machine as we begin our tour of the Battle of Trenton, Tennessee. Please fasten your seatbelts and keep your arms and legs inside of the vehicle at all times. But to get going, we need your help. We still need to fire up that time machine to transport us. Please help us by clicking on the like, subscribe, and bell notification buttons down below. Not only does this fire up the time machine for our flight back in time, but it convinces the YouTube algorithm that we need a bigger vehicle to reach more people who love history as much as you do. Now, back to our story. The beginning of the tour. The first portion of the tour begins at the Welcome to Trenton, Tennessee sign, which is located on Highway 45 West in Gibson County. Here, we will pick up with a portion of the forest raids in the area. Brigadier General Nathan Bedford Forrest had a goal to disrupt the Union supply lines to General Grant in the western theater of the war. He had pushed his men forward to Spring Creek in Madison County, Tennessee. In his company was N. Cox's battalion, Forrest Escort Company under the direction of Captain M. Little, S.L. Freeman's battery, and part of Biffle's 9th Tennessee Cavalry. Forrest had taken prisoners during the Battle of Lexington, Tennessee, who among them was Union Colonel Robert Ingersoll. Ingersoll traveled with Forrest's staff during the march. Before leaving Spring Creek, Forrest sent part of his forces ahead of him to capture part of Humboldt, Tennessee. He also left part of his forces behind him to hold Spring Creek and to be his rear guard. Moving swiftly, Forrest's men moved up Lexington Street to capture the Union forces who were barricaded at the Mobile and Ohio depot. Major Cox moved with his men on the right flank and captured the railroad station on the east side of town. Biffle and his men were sent to the rear of Forrest's troops to attack from the north. At 1 p.m. on Saturday, December 20th, 1862, Forrest led the charge through Trenton, Tennessee. Tour stop number 1. We have now arrived at the first stop on our tour. This location is now known as the site of Dr. Freed's house. However, at the time of the Civil War, it was known as the Oddfellows Female Collegiate Institute. During Forrest's attack, the young ladies who were attending the school dropped their lunches outside of the windows and baskets for the hungry passing Confederate soldiers. The building would later be occupied by Federal troops and used as a guardhouse. Sometime during its occupation, the original building was destroyed by a fire. In 1910, the lodge did make an effort to collect the $10,000 worth of damages done by the Federal soldiers from the United States government. Several years after the war, the property was purchased by Confederate veteran Dr. Freed. There, he built the existing building for his family. I will now read the signage that is on the property.
Female Collegiate Institute, the Freed House. Friendship Lodge Number 22, Independent Order of the Oddfellows, founded the Oddfellows Female Collegiate Institute here in 1862. During the Civil War, Federal troops occupied the building, a two-story brick structure, and used it as a hospital. An accidental fire destroyed it. After the war, the Oddfellows Lodge filed a claim for damage. The school was not rebuilt. Although Trenton survived the military attacks and occupation by both sides during the war, like many towns, it recovered slowly from the conflict. Julius Freed, and there's a picture of Julius Freed, courtesy of the Tennessee State Library and Archive. Julius Freed, a German Jewish merchant who moved to Trenton after the war, constructed this house in the Institute site, helped the town recover. Freed served in the 15th Tennessee Infantry of the Army of the Tennessee and was wounded in battles at Perryville and Chickamauga and during the Atlanta Campaign. Captured during Hood's attack on Nashville in December 1864, Freed became a prisoner of war until his release in May 1865. Although he had been in business in Memphis and Jackson before the conflict, Freed settled in Trenton and established a dry goods store in partnership with another Jewish merchant, Julius Elbert. In 1871, Freed married Henrietta Cone and constructed this Italianate-style house. Their son became an important local banker and politician, and the family made many civic contributions, including a fountain and a baseball park. Dr. Frederick Freed gave the city a unique and valuable set of Valise Theories night light teapots, and this collection, housed at the City Hall, has become the city symbol for Trenton. And there you can see J. Freed and Son Clothing Store, courtesy of Fred M. Culp. And J. Freed Clothing, Gentlemen's Furnishing Goods, boots, shoes, hats, caps, and notions, and etc. West Side, I believe that's Courthouse Square, Trenton, Tennessee. The public are asked to call and examine my stock. Proposed to sell is cheap or cheaper than any other merchant in Trenton. Terms, cash. J. Freed. Advertisement for J. Freed Clothing Store, courtesy of Fred M. Culp. And here's his house. It's for sale currently. Needs some TLC. And that's a big property.
Tour stop number 2. Our second stop along the tour is Gibson County Courthouse. There, under the direction of Forrest, Captain Anderson entered the courthouse, removed all of the bonds and oaths of allegiance that the citizens had been forced to sign, and set them ablaze on the courthouse lawn. According to the driving tour pamphlet, Colonel George P. Hyrie, aide-de-camp, acting Inspector General D.T., lamented in his report of the battle the following statement. Quote, had he, Colonel Fry, taken up his position in the courthouse and barricaded the streets leading to it with cotton bales, the Confederate artillery could have never reached him except through the houses of friends. Unquote. The courthouse that is here during the Civil War was built in 1841. It was later torn down in 1899. The present courthouse that is before you was completed in 1901. I will now read the signage about the capture of the courthouse.
It's fighting for Trenton, rifling the courthouse. We have Captain Charles W. Anderson from Life of General Nathan Bedford Forrest, 1899, and General Nathan B. Forrest, courtesy of the Library of Congress. The current Gibson County Courthouse was completed in 1899 and is the fourth courthouse to be constructed on this site. A log building was completed in 1825. A brick structure replaced it in 1829, and another brick courthouse was built between 1839 and 1841. It survived the Civil War and stood until this courthouse was constructed. Gibson County Courthouse of 1839 through 1841, courtesy of TennesseeRoots.com. And over here we have a map. It says Forrest First West Tennessee Raid, December 15th, 1862 to January 3rd, 1863. And then here we have a caption. It reads, General Nathan Bedford Forrest led his cavalry brigade on a raid through West Tennessee, December 15, 1862 to January 3, 1863, destroying railroads and severing General Ulysses S. Grant's supply line between Columbus, Kentucky and Vicksburg, Mississippi. Forrest crossed the Tennessee River at Clifton, defeated Colonel Robert G. Ingersoll's cavalry at Lexington, captured Trenton and Union City, and ranged briefly into Kentucky. He raided back through Tennessee, evaded defeat at Parker's Crossroads, and crossed the river again at Clifton. Grant changed his supply base to Memphis. And here we have a colored newspaper illustration of the General Forrest driving the Federals out of Trenton, Tennessee. General Forrest in the foreground giving orders, courtesy of Tennessee State Library and Archives. Confederate General Nathan B. Forrest Cavalry Brigade captured Trenton on an important stop in the Mobile and Ohio Railroad on December 20th, 1862. He and his men occupied the town briefly before riding on toward Union City the next day. Forrest A. Captain Charles W. Anderson allegedly entered Gibson County Courthouse here, gathered the bonds and oaths of allegiance to the United States that Trenton residents had signed, piled them in the yard, and set them on fire. Corporal William H. Ibbotson of Colonel D. 122nd Illinois Infantry described the war's efforts on the town. He arrived in Trenton with his regiment on October 9, 1862. The unit had ridden in boxcars used for transporting cattle by rail to Corinth, Mississippi. In his diary, Iverson wrote the next day the regiment, quote, went into quarters that evening and in a large store on the west side of the courthouse square. The town is very nice, but shows unmistakable signs of the Civil War. It used to have a population of 1,500, but now no more than 500 remain. A great many homes were vacant, unquote. The town was very nice, but shows unmistakable signs of the Civil War. It used to have a population of 1,500, but now not more than 500 remain. A great many homes were vacant, unquote. The Russell Hill chapter, United Daughters of the Confederacy, erected the Confederate Monument in 1907. And here we see the Confederate Monument. And it says, erected to the memory of our Confederate soldiers by the Russell Hill chapter, UDC, lest we forget. And we have the stacked arms on one side. And the anchor on the other.
In next week's video, we will continue with the driving tour as we walk around the courthouse square to discover the important places and events concerning the capture of Trenton, Tennessee. Thank you. Kentucky Tennessee Living would like to thank you for watching our video series on the Battle of Trenton, Tennessee self-guided driving tour. Don't forget to hit that like button, as the more likes we receive, the more likely YouTube is to suggest our videos to other viewers. Also, to receive notice when we upload a new video, be sure to subscribe and click the bell notification button. We thank you for continuing to support Kentucky Tennessee Living as we are discovering the mysteries in Appalachian history.